How did your enemy's underestimation of your strength blind them to the unstoppable force you've become? Now they have no idea who they've crossed, no sense of the storm they have awakened. They thought their betrayal would crush you, that you would remain tangled in the pain they caused, but they failed to see the fire they ignited within you. Betrayal cuts deep, like a blade forged in the fires of trust, and it left wounds that bled in silence, wounds you carried without ever letting them see. But silence does not mean defeat. The unanswered questions, the nights spent wondering how those you once held close could turn so cold, those are the ghosts that linger, haunting the spaces they left empty. They may believe you are still trapped in that darkness, caught in the web of confusion and pain they left behind. But they are wrong. This is not about their remorse, nor is it about the hollow apologies they will never offer. You no longer seek their explanations or their regret. The time for waiting is over. They reveled in your suffering, their cruel delight disguised as indifference. You trusted them, allowed them into your world, only to find their betrayal cut deeper than any blade. Closure was never an option, not because they forgot, but because they found power in leaving you stranded in the void. Their silence wasn't an accident. It was a choice, a deliberate act to shatter your confidence and leave you questioning your own worth. The betrayal wasn't just a single moment. It was a slow unraveling, a gradual erosion of trust until all that remained was the jagged edge of deceit. You kept searching for answers, hoping for a reason, a moment of clarity, but they never gave you one. Why would they? Your pain was their victory, your confusion their triumph. They watched as you drowned in the uncertainty, your screams swallowed by the abyss they created. But here's the truth they'd never anticipated. You don't need their apology, their explanation, or their acknowledgement to find closure. You've been waiting for them to validate your pain, to confess to their wrongs, as if that could somehow stitch together the gaping wound they left. But they are incapable of giving you that peace. They thrive on the chaos they've caused, hoping you'll stay tangled in the web of your own questions. It's time to take that power back. You've been holding on to the anger, the hurt, the sorrow like a shield, but it's only weighed you down. Write down every thought, every feeling they've provoked in you, the rage, the heartbreak, the emptiness. Let your words pour out like the storm they created inside of you. Don't hold back. This isn't for anyone else but you. And then destroy it. Burn the paper, drown it, shred it, turn those words into ashes, as insignificant as the people who caused them. Watch as they disintegrate, reduced to nothingness, just like the illusions they once held over you. You are not bound by their cruelty anymore. You are your own closure, your own reckoning. In their silence, you found your voice. You've become more than the sum of their betrayals. You've become the one thing they never saw coming, untouchable. When their schemes reached their most vicious point, when they believed they had crushed you for good, God intervened. They didn't see it coming. Their arrogance blinded them to the power that moved around you, the force that shielded you when their knives were at your throat. Divine justice is not loud or boastful. It strikes when the time is right, when they least expect it. Their laughter has turned to silence. The same mouths that once mocked you, the same eyes that watched with glee as you stumbled, are now witnessing a reversal they cannot comprehend. God's hand has shifted the weight they placed on you back onto them. Every trap they laid, every whisper of slander they spread, now coils around them like a serpent tightening its grip. They are choking on the very poison they brewed for you. This is not karma. It is divine retribution. There is a balance they never considered, a cosmic law they violated in their reckless pursuit of your downfall. Now they are forced to witness your resurgence, helpless to stop the rise they swore would never come. You stand taller, not just because you survived, but because you thrived in the face of their hatred. Their envy has only multiplied, but their power to harm you has vanished. They are now shadows in the presence of your light, watching from the edges as you reclaim everything they tried to take. You were never broken, you were forged, and the fire that they kindled only tempered your strength. God's justice isn't quick, it's precise. The timing is flawless, the impact undeniable. What they sowed in malice, they now reap in misery. Every glance they cast your way, every whispered plot they once shared, now weighs on them like a stone they can't lift. They are not just spectators to your success. They are prisoners in the cage they built for you. Your comeback is more than survival. It is a reckoning. And they, the very ones who mocked your struggle, must watch from the ruins of their own arrogance as you rise higher than they ever thought possible. They once stood over you, thinking their treachery would leave you broken, that their betrayal would forever define your story. Now, regret wraps around them like a tightening noose. They are haunted by the choices they made, the lies they whispered, the pain they inflicted. But their regret comes too late, for the damage is already done, and the weight of their actions cannot be undone. Even as they seek forgiveness, their guilt cannot erase the consequences of what they set in motion. There is no escape from the divine judgment that looms over them, a reckoning they cannot evade. God's justice has already been set in motion. They are now trapped in the very misery they crafted for you. The suffering they intended for you now festers in their lives, taking root in the corners of their existence. The struggles they wished upon you have returned to them 1,000-fold. For divine justice does not forget. They wanted to see you fall, to watch you crumble under the weight of your burdens. But instead, they are the ones who falter. Their plans have backfired, and they now find themselves imprisoned by the very darkness they tried to cast over you. As they drown in their own misfortune, they are forced to witness something they never expected: your unstoppable rise. It is not just a rise, it is a surge, an ascent that defies every attempt they made to pull you down. With every step forward you take, their defeat is amplified, their regret magnified. They see you standing stronger, untouched by the chains they tried to place upon you. This too is part of their punishment, for there is nothing more agonizing to them than seeing the very person they sought to destroy emerge victorious. Their regret is a hollow cry against the backdrop of your resilience. They cannot outrun the divine justice that has now turned its gaze upon them. No matter how desperately they seek absolution, the path they chose has set into motion a fate they cannot avoid. What they sowed in malice, they now reap in anguish, and they are powerless to stop the rise of the very person they thought would be erased by their schemes. You are the living proof of their failure, and every breath you take is a testament to the power of your resilience. God's justice has spoken, and they must now endure its full weight. God has led you here, to this moment of victory, where their regret and schemes can no longer touch you. Inside the obsidian inner circle, we don't just talk about resilience, we embody it. You've endured the worst, and now it's time to rise far beyond their reach. The divine justice ensures that every wrong done to you becomes the foundation for your unstoppable rise. They thought they could erase you, but now they're watching as you elevate to levels they can't even comprehend. If you feel the weight of everything they tried to do and know it's your time to step into your divine power, God has led you here for a reason. Join the inner circle, where we turn every betrayal into fuel for your ascension. This is your time to walk in the fullness of what God has declared for you, untouched by their regret, unstoppable in your rise. The link is in the description. They watched you closely, not because they admired you, but because your strength illuminated every corner of their weakness. The way you moved through the world, unshaken by the chaos, infuriated them. Your ability to endure, to rise above circumstances that would have shattered them, was a constant reminder of their own inadequacies. They saw in you what they could never be: resilient, unbreakable, forged by adversity into something they couldn't understand. It was this contrast, the sharp reflection of their own smallness in your integrity, that filled them with a deep, festering insecurity. In their eyes, your strength was not something to respect, it was something to destroy. Your existence forced them to confront their own cowardice, their own failures. Instead of confronting their shadows, they turned their bitterness outward towards you. They wore masks of kindness, feigned support, but beneath the surface, their hatred grew. It wasn't you they despised, it was the parts of themselves they saw reflected in your unwavering resolve. They couldn't handle that you stood taller than the limits they set for themselves. You became the target of their insecurity, their scapegoat for all the things they lacked but craved. So they plotted. Behind the smiles, the false words of encouragement. They whispered of ways to bring you down, to cage you in the same misery they had built for themselves. They couldn't let you rise, couldn't allow you to continue proving their own inferiority. They needed to keep you stuck, confined to the same small space where they had resigned themselves. But their plan was doomed from the start. They underestimated the depth of your strength, the resilience that ran through your veins like steel. Their schemes, born from insecurity and fear, collapsed under the weight of their own deception. Now they watch as their carefully laid plans fall apart, as you rise above the ruin they tried to create. The masks they wore are cracking, revealing the hollow faces beneath. They see now what they should have known from the beginning. You were never going to be trapped by their fear. Their insecurity is a chain around their own necks, tightening as they witness your continued strength. Their failure isn't just in their failed attempts to harm you. It's in their realization that they never had the power to hold you back. You are still standing, and they are left grappling with the truth they tried to escape. They were never your equals. You have been raised beyond their grasp, lifted by hands they cannot see or comprehend. Their schemes, once laid so carefully, now lie in ruins. They had gathered in secret, plotting to hold you down, to choke the breath from your aspirations. But their webs of deceit have collapsed under the weight of divine justice. God's hand moved without warning, shifting you higher, beyond the boundaries of their malice. Now they stand in the dust of their own failures, watching as you rise, as you excel, untouched by the chains they had crafted for you. They are silent now. The laughter that once echoed behind closed doors, the smug smiles they shared when you stumbled, all have been replaced by a bitter realization. They must now witness the very thing they feared most, your triumph. Their voices are muted as you break through the limits they thought they had set for you. Each step you take toward greatness is a step further from the world they tried to trap you in. The plans they devised to sabotage your success have become the scaffold upon which your victory is built. They are prisoners of their own jealousy, forced to watch as the life they tried to deny you unfolds in ways they could never have imagined. Your rise is not just a success, it is a declaration, a silent roar that shakes their foundations. They are powerless, spectators, to the very success they worked so hard to prevent. Their envy, once a hidden force driving their actions, now eats away at them, for they can no longer pretend indifference. They see you thriving, and with every achievement you gain, their failure is underscored. They will never be a part of this success, not because they were left out, but because they made the choice to work against you. This is their divine payback, to stand at the edge of your greatness, unable to touch it, unable to claim any part of it. They must endure the bitter truth that all their efforts were in vain. God has ensured that the very heights they sought to keep you from are now the heights from which you look down. They are left with nothing but their own regret, forced to reckon with the reality that their actions not only failed, but served to highlight the strength and favor that have carried you beyond their reach. In their silence, your success speaks louder than their schemes ever could. God's justice is not a distant dream. It is now a living reality. You have been lifted, and they have been left behind, watching, powerless to stop the ascent that they unknowingly fueled with their own jealousy and hatred. Their payback is eternal, to see you thrive while they remain trapped in the shadows of their own making. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate demonstration of strength. You are not here to drag your enemies down into the pit they tried to create for you. They are already sinking under the weight of their own actions. The vengeance you might have desired has been rendered unnecessary because divine justice is already at work. God has taken over where your hands would have faltered, ensuring that the balance is restored. What you may not see but must trust is that those who wronged you are now caught in the web of consequences they spun for themselves. Their laughter has faded, their triumph turned to ash, as they now live in the shadow of what they have done. You are no longer tethered to their malice. Your heart is too expansive, your spirit too vast to be shackled by the desire for retribution. God's hand moves silently but surely, and those who sought to harm you are already feeling the weight of that divine intervention. Their suffering, though unseen by your eyes, is real. They are facing the darkness they once projected onto you. But you are called to something greater. Pray for them. Pray not for their destruction, but for their transformation. Pray for their release from the chains they crafted in their attempts to bind you. They are trapped in their own chaos, a prison of their own making, and only a change of heart will set them free. Trust that through their hardship, they may see the error of their ways. They may eventually understand the depth of the harm they caused and seek redemption not from you, but from the very source of justice that is now unraveling their lives. Your growth is evident, undeniable in its force. You have outgrown the pain they inflicted, towering above the wreckage of their failed schemes. Their downfall is inevitable unless they choose to change. What you have now is clarity. They must face the consequences of their actions alone. You do not need to guide them toward suffering, for they are already there, walking a path of self-inflicted destruction. Your role is not to wait for their ruin or celebrate their misery. It is to continue rising, continue growing, untouched by the bitterness that once surrounded you. God has lifted you beyond the need for revenge, allowing you to focus on your own flourishing. Their downfall will come, but whether they remain lost in their own cruelty or find redemption through it is no longer your concern. They watched you from the shadows, plotting while you trusted them. Every word they spoke in your presence dripped with falsehood, a web of deceit spun to bind you in failure. They whispered behind closed doors, spreading lies about your intentions, sowing seeds of doubt into the minds of those around you. With every setback they orchestrated, they believed they had secured your defeat. They didn't want you to recover because your downfall was the spectacle they had been waiting for. Their hands, stained with envy, worked tirelessly to build a cage around you, hoping you'd never find the way out. Their betrayal wasn't impulsive. It was methodical, calculated. Every rumor, every manipulated truth was a stone in the foundation of your ruin. They gathered their accomplices, each as spineless as the next, united by their shared hatred for your light. They waited, watching, anticipating the moment you would stumble under the weight of the traps they had set for you. Your pain was their entertainment, your struggle the fuel for their laughter. Behind every smile they gave you, there was malice. Behind every gesture of goodwill, a sharpened blade. Their greatest joy was in thinking they had broken you beyond repair. But their laughter was built on a fragile foundation. They underestimated your strength. They thought you wouldn't rise, that you'd be consumed by the chaos they created, suffocated by the weight of their cruelty. They were wrong. They've tried to burn down what they cannot understand, driven by an envy so deep they can no longer see beyond their own bitterness. They thought they could bury you, not realizing you were already rooted too deeply in the ground they tried to scorch. Their hatred was a fire that only revealed your resilience. Their actions have revealed everything about them and nothing about you. They are small, consumed by their desire to see you falter, while you stand untouchable, beyond the reach of their schemes. Their amusement was short-lived. They now watch as you rise, stronger, unscathed, as their envy festers. The same cruelty they weaponized against you will be the very thing that destroys them. Because in trying to break you, they've only fractured themselves, exposing their weakness to the light you refuse to let die. You have stood through storms meant to break you, and yet here you are, stronger, unshaken. What they did to you was cruel, but it could never define you. Every attempt to tear you down has only revealed your resilience. They mocked you, celebrated your struggles, believing they could shape your downfall. But now, they face the undeniable truth. Their plans have failed, and they are left to witness your rise. Divine justice is already in motion, and nothing they do can stop what is unfolding. Keep your focus on the path ahead, your eyes fixed on the strength that has carried you this far. God's hand is at work, and those who sought to harm you will face the consequences of their choices. They no longer hold power over you. The story they tried to write for you has been rewritten, and it's one of victory, not defeat. You are not just a survivor. You are a force they could never silence. Now share your story. Let others hear what you've endured and how you've overcome. Your voice, once suppressed, now carries the weight of truth and the power of your survival. It's time for others to know the strength that was born from their attempts to destroy you. Your story is the proof of their failure, and your voice is the beacon for others to find their way through their own battles. Speak, and let the world know you have risen above it all.